finding the tapes for this was almost an accident. We didn't even know they were there. I guess somebody knew that they were there, but these charges kept coming up, that we kept getting charged for these 2 lockups that we had. And we were just kind of blindly paying these charges month by month for year after year and had no idea what was in these things. So we finally said, well, let's find out what the hell is in these lockups. And, we sent somebody down there to open the door, and what he found was 2 rooms just filled with multi-track recording tape. One of the boxes that I came on was this box that said Philadelphia 2. Right? Now I remember doing Philadelphia and the King Biscuit hour at the Tower Theater and all that, but I couldn't remember doing 2 nights. So I called up our old manager and I said, "What's the story here?" And he reminded me that what this was. We had just finished the Bad Reputation album in Toronto. And we'd been offered a U.S. tour for 3 months, an arena tour. So we thought, this is a perfect opportunity for us to be able to, go back to America and just show the Americans what we can do. This could actually be the tour that live-wise we could actually crack America. Instead of being that band that's only known for that one song, "The Boys Are Back in Town," or that one album. Jailbreak. It's something that the Europeans, we had a big fan base in Europe, had, several big hit singles and albums and all that. But in America, it was the one thing. So now's our chance. We're going to go out there. We're going to crack America with this particular tour. So the first 2 Philadelphia shows and the radio King Biscuit thing was the very first 2 shows on this sort of mini 2-week warm-up spot that we were using. And we were using that warm-up area so we could air these new songs out. We could try them out, sort of road testing them, to see, how the audience react to this sort of alien new material, to see how we were playing, these brand new songs in front of an audience, to see where we were putting them in the set. Is it going to screw the set up? Is it going to mess with the flow and all that? So that's what you actually hear on this album, is us really kind of road testing these brand new songs that we really don't know how we're going to be accepted. We don't know how the audience is going to react and all that. So it's kind of a twofold thing. It was us doing that, and at the same time, this is it. We're going to conquer America with this tour. This is the one. But unfortunately, the curse of Thin Lizzy strikes again, and we get to the end of this 2-week warm-up period, and Phil is complaining at this point now. He's complaining about feeling ill. He's tired. He can't get back up again. In fact, the very last show of that 2-week, he actually came in and laid on the floor and said, "I can't get back up. I can't get up. I'm too tired," which was a totally alien thing for any of us to hear from, especially Phil Lynott. He wasn't that guy. He never complained about something. So something was seriously wrong here. So, the management said, "Listen, we've got to fly to Ohio tonight. We'll fly to Ohio and we'll get the doctor in." And that's what we did. We got the doctor in the next morning, and that's when the doctor said, "You guys are done. The tour is over with. To Phil, you shouldn't even be standing. You shouldn't be out here. We need to get you back on the plane, back to London, into the hospital, into the emergency ward, because you have an advanced case of hepatitis C." And that was our all-conquering of America tour came to a screeching halt right there. So that was the end of that. But we did get the Still Dangerous show out of that. And it kind of shows everybody, where we were as a band at this moment in time, which to me, and it's the reason I wanted to get it out there, is because, the band is really at a nice peak period right here. So, people have asked me, what do you think of this compared to Live and Dangerous? And personally, I do. I think it's a better all-around album, but that kind of cheeses some of the other people. What do you mean it's better? But I do like it just because of what it took to get all this on tape. The new material and all that. So, in those respects, it's a more interesting album to me. He was the gunslinger, right? He was the gunslinger, but he was that, absolutely generous guy at the same time. Phil, whoever, worked with us at any point, Phil wanted to push us all as equal, partners in the band, which was really great, because a lot of, Phil was the obvious guy in the band. There's no doubt about that. The guy was a real star. And he knew it, but I don't think he really dwelled on it all that much. He wanted everybody around him to take part in this whole thing. So he actively pushed you up to the front of the stage. He actually did that. He grabbed me one night, pulled me in the very beginning, pulled me and put me in the front and says, "Don't fucking move," right? Because I was cowering in the back going, "What the hell's going on?" But he was that guy, He wanted you to take part in the whole thing. He wanted you to have your time in the light, And there's not too many guys that are like that, Once they get the spotlight, they kind of want to keep it, And they'll kind of elbow people out of the way. But that wasn't Phil's way, He to him it wasn't Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy, or it wasn't just Phil Lynott. It was Thin Lizzy, and we all do this together. And he was really cool that way. Come on, guys, we're doing this as a gang. So that was very cool. I love the guy. I think a lot of that had to do with Brian Downey, the drummer, and the way he approached, a lot of his drum grooves. Brian used to, he wasn't a real, slammer of the snare drum. There was a lot of ghosting that he did, a lot of ghost notes. He had a real kind of a wristy thing going with his hi-hat. You never got hardly ever anyway, you hardly ever got the kind of thing out of Brian. It always had to be, you always had to add something in there. But what that used to do, it used to add a different sound to it. It used to add this kind of a swing kind of thing that was incorporated into the sound, which made you think in another direction, which was always, pretty cool. And then you got Phil's bass. Now, Phil always used to joke about, I'm the worst bass player in the business. Well, he wasn't, and he knew that. I mean, I've played with, several, Class A bass players, and each one of them, are amazed at what Phil actually does. The kind of notes he picks out, the real strength of how he, hit the string and kept it going. And we also knew that, Phil was a big entertainer on the stage. Now, you can't be doing a lot of Jacko kind of things and trying to talk to the audience and bring everybody in at the same time. You've got to bring this, down a couple of levels and keep things kind of leveled off. So he is able to actually communicate with people, and bring, these arena-sized audiences into like a club kind of feel, which is a real art in itself. And he was able to do that. So, there was all, so the actual rhythm section for Thin Lizzy, for me and Brian Robertson or Gary Moore and all that, it was a real pretty unique experience with these two guys holding everything down. These two guys were your engine area, right? And it kind of enabled us to be the floaty thing on top. There was a lot of room for us to work these different kind of things out. Brian Downey was the king of the shuffles. I don't think there was anybody in the business that could do a shuffle groove better than Brian. And so apparently for drummers to play a great shuffle is a really tough thing to do. It's like almost like this specialized area that you really have to specialize in to really pull this off. And I've played with other guys. I know how hard it is for them. So, when you see that, you realize just how good Brian Downey really was and is as a drummer. I think that a lot of that, once again, is kind of maybe a little bit of an Irish influence there. And it's probably a bit of a subliminal thing. You're not intentionally thinking Irish, but I think it's like the sponge being soaking up all this sort of peripheral things, and you do soak it up. And because of the way, Phil wrote songs the way he did, wrote his lyrics and all that, they were very explicit, very storytelling-like. It kind of rubbed off on you, and you wanted to be part of that. And you wanted to be part of the melodic side of this whole, Thin Lizzy thing. So I think it was kind of easy. You kind of went for that. You kind of went for that idea. I want to incorporate things that are going to work in the song. Rather than, if you're doing a lead guitar bit, rather than just, here's my 15 seconds, I'm going to rip and give it God Almighty everything. You actually thought about where you were in the song, the area you were, and you tried to fit all that in the right way anyway. The boys are back in town. Well, Phil came in with a pretty skeletal idea on that, which would happen most of the time. Phil would come in with a real basic sketch of, say, a certain song, and it was especially, the boys are back in town. In fact, at that point, when he first brought it, it really didn't have, a full melody to it. It certainly didn't have all the lyrics to it. At this point, it was just an idea for the basic chord pattern. And, he would come in and he would play something like... I mean, it would be that simple, right? And he'd go, what do you think? Yeah, that's pretty good. But then, you would start, Brian or I or myself would get on it, and Brian would, Downey would start to put his little kind of groove thing in there and make it swing a little bit. So that made you kind of go... Right? So now we're starting to swing a little bit here. And things are, it's all going pretty good. Yeah, I really like that, basic verse thing. So he says, well, I've got a bit here, the chorus, but, it's going to need, I think we're going to need like a guitar break here, some sort of I don't know what. It'll be a guitar thing, and maybe it'll go something like... And of course, you're looking at him going, all right, that's pretty basic, right? So you're trying to, envision, what can I get out of what can I get out of that? And I can't remember if it was Brian or myself. And so, well, let's keep this whole thing rolling. Let's give it kind of the, the rolling kind of feel and it came out. That sounds all right. That sounds all right. So how are you going to end that off? And then you're back into it. So at that point, well, okay, that sounds pretty good. But are we going to do that just like in a unison thing? No, let's put a harmony to it. And as soon as the harmony came on, it was like, oh, well, actually, this really makes sense now, and I'm kind of digging this, So that's how a lot of these things actually, came about, is a bass line would come in. That's your sketch pattern, you're working from that. So a lot of work went into all of these songs, but you had to be pretty well opened and to be able to try a lot of different things to, make those sort of simple things work. I tell you, there's one chord that people forget to put into this, right? it kind of flows into each other really nicely there, you know. Phil brought this thing in and he goes, yeah, I got this thing. And I think he, right off the bat, knew it was going to be called Cowboy Song. We had now been in America now a couple of times. And there was like 3 big cities that really bowled Phil over in a big way. One was New York, the other one was Los Angeles, and the other one was Dallas, Texas. You know, there was something about, you know, an Irish kid growing up in Dublin. And really that's all he knows is kind of the Dublin area. And the only thing he knows about America is what he sees on TV or what he sees in the movies. You know, as a kid, you grow up watching the cowboy movies and all that. And now all of a sudden he's in this rock band and he's able to go to places like New York, Los Angeles, and Texas. And he can see the cactus for himself, you know, the starry nights, you know, you don't get that in Dublin, these vast, clear skies with shooting stars and all that. So he was totally taken, you know, back with the state of Texas and the thought of cowboys and all that. And that's pretty much what he wanted. He wanted that, you know, feel in the beginning of song of sitting around in a campfire. It's just this really kind of quiet thing, just sitting around gazing. That's the kind of vibe he wanted. So that's how we kind of wrote that a little bit there. And so now it's time to pump the song up. How do you pump this? How do you get this thing going? And that's when he came up with the actual cowboy song riff. You know, he says, well, we'll do this riff twice and then bang it straight into the chord sequence. So it's like. And then we're into the song proper. But you know, that was a real Philism. That. So it was kind of easy to write some stuff around that one. But that's you know, the song definitely comes from Texas, from him being inspired from his surroundings in that part of the world. Jailbreak is the beginning of the sets. Strangely enough, on the Still Dangerous album, it isn't the beginning. And I think that's what drew me to, this particular set, is because we didn't start off with Jailbreak. You didn't have the big. You didn't have that. I mean, that's what the beginning of Thin Lizzy set is. The big E chord, right? And you punch everybody in the nose right up, you make their eyes water, and you're off and running, right? It didn't do that on this. So, and that's what really intrigued me. You know, here we are doing all these big, these experiments and experimenting on the audience and all that. But the Jailbreak album, or the Jailbreak track, just sort of sonically and feel-wise, is just a really kicking song to play. You know, it's just got the, like I say, the big E. You can drop the guitar and still hit E, you know. It's one of those, 2, 3. It's just a great groove to play, you know. So it's a great way to actually start the set for all of us in the band. because it's not a really complicated song. It gets the audience. They're right there with you. They're loving it with you. But you're able to get your groove on like right off the bat. There's nothing too complicated about it. So, you know, if at any point you're feeling a little under the weather or tired or whatever, this is a song that kind of gets your keel nice and even again, just because you got that. Then you got the old middle section here, which it is such a simple line to play. I mean, it just doesn't get any simpler than this. But once again, it's one of those things. It just feels really cool to play it, you know. So E, right? Where are we going next? Hey! Ooh! Back into it, and somebody's soloing away and all that. But it's one of those songs that's a real fun, kicking everything off kind of song. You don't have to think a whole bunch, right? It settles you down, and you're off and away. You're ready for the whole set after that one. So it's why we start off with that one all the time.